Hello, and thanks for joining me today here at Cedar Creek Homestead. And this is Howie once again, and bringing you our weekly Porch Talk. And I sure enjoy doing the Porch Talks, and I have feel like I've got to meet a lot of neat folks through this, and many of you have commented from the get-go started with us, and some of you are new folks and many new subscribers, and we certainly appreciate you subscribing. That really encourages us. If you want to help us out, just subscribe to our channel. It doesn't cost you a thing. You just hit the little subscribe button here on YouTube, and then the little bell icon will come up, and if you'll click that little bell, it'll ask you these 2 or 3 different selections. But if you want us to, whenever a video is, we upload a new video, it also reminds you on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock when we upload our Porch Talk videos. So, but all of our videos, and we'd certainly appreciate that. And we also appreciate all of your comments, and you seem like a really nice bunch of folks, and if I had a chance to meet you all, I would. I get to meet a lot of folks all the time, and I love visiting with people. I kind of have the gift of gab, I guess some say, but I have, I guess take it after my dad, I've never met a stranger, and I'll visit with anyone that would visit. But today's title is, where do you go when there's nowhere else to go? And the reason I bring that to you is I listen mostly to Fox News as far as a news source, and I watch very little TV. Occasionally I will watch our local news, which is an ABC affiliate, and but I've heard, and it's true, that there are a lot of folks migrating from California and New York and some of those states that seem to be left-wing, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the proper title is, because I don't know that I know anyone from New York State. My grandmother was from New York State, and she was a very good person, and but she came from New York State a long time ago, and but I do know a lot of folks from California, and I know folks that still live in California, and not a whole lot, but a few, and some that I watch on YouTube that are in California. But there's been a mass exodus of people moving to our area here, mostly from California. There's been several from Colorado, but a big move of folks from California to here. And I've got to meet several here lately. And if I get a chance and the subject comes around, it will come into, how did you find this part? Because here where we are in Oklahoma, this is eastern Oklahoma, we're in a very rural area, and most of the people that I've talked to, some have had relatives to this area, or they lived in this area, moved off, and came back. But there's a lot of folks right now that I've met just recently, and in fact the last couple of years there's been a lot, but just here the last little while, folks that are buying homes here, and I would say in the last 6 months maybe. I couldn't tell you the exact, but I'm estimating in there. But I've met several folks from California, and they say they're moving here, and if we get the subject turns around where I can ask them, I'm like, what brought you here to this part of, how'd you find this place? Why are you here? And some of them will say, well, we were looking up around Tulsa or Oklahoma City, somewhere like that, and we found this area and the property was cheaper. And a lot of them will tell me that they sold their places out in California, cashed them in for a big, huge amount, and come here to Oklahoma. But most of them tell me the reason they've moved here, the number one thing was for lower taxes and on their properties. And the other thing that I have heard, I think every one of them, I believe, have mentioned this in some way or another, the political climate is another reason why they've moved here. But, and, from what little bit I know of California and being in the heating and air conditioning and appliance businesses, they have a lot of ordinances that start out in California. There was a big lawsuit going on that California had rules about raising chickens, and you couldn't sell eggs to their state unless you raised the chickens the way they wanted. I was at a Whirlpool training, and a lot of people are complaining about their washers. Now when you buy a new clothes washer, a top load washer only puts a little bit of water in. And several people have complained that their clothes don't seem to get clean. And some have told me that their clothes didn't even get wet. So when we take them out of the washer, the clothes are still in the middle. Bunch of it is still dry. And they're concerned about it. And when I was at a Whirlpool training, they said the reason they done that was to meet, this is what the representative told me, was to meet the energy standards of California and to save water and other things. But this is the thing that I wonder about some of that, is what good does it do if it's not going to get the clothes clean? And if a person has to wash 2 or 3 times, what good does that do? And but it was kind of like those low flow toilets. Do you remember there was a big push for that for a while, where you'd have to flush your toilet 2 or 3 times to get the toilet clean? And what good does that do? And that's just another example of the government getting into things. It seems to me like any time the government gets involved, they generally do not make things better. But it seems to be a big push that there is about half of the citizenry of the United States, of the actual population, not half of the states, but half of the actual population, and it's mostly the bigger metropolis areas, that they want the government in their lives. They want the government to, and they're used to having their trash dumped. They're used to having their sewer taken care of. They're used to having patrols from the police and fire and all that. Now, it hasn't been very many years ago right here that we didn't even have fire protection. And it used to be right here where we live that you rarely ever seen a police deputy. In fact, there was a while here when all the time I was growing up, that the police deputies here didn't even have marked cars. They got an allowance from the county, the sheriff's deputies, to use their own cars, and some of them was just old beat up clunkers. And they'd be guys that would work for the sheriff's office, and they couldn't afford a whole lot of stuff. They'd have a little old dinky looking pistol on their side, and they risked their lives. And this is some kind of a funny thing, but when I was a little boy, we had a policeman in town named Warnicki. And he would bring the police car from town. They only had one for a long time. Later they bought 2. Now they have 5 or 6 police cars in our town, which has grown a little bit more. But the policemen would come out here and bring packages from a company called Mistletoe. I don't know if you ever remember that. It was before UPS really got up and going, and they usually wore brown uniforms, but they drove kind of like little mini short 18-wheeler type trucks. And but anyway, bobtails, maybe that's what they call them. But they'd come into town, and the policeman, he would just get some of the packages and run out here to the neighbors and stuff and deliver those for people, so that the Mistletoe guy didn't have to come out here. Now, Mistletoe may actually be still in business, but I remember that. Then it seemed like everything started being UPS, and UPS would come out and deliver. But nonetheless, the rules and regulations, and Oklahoma is considered one of the least regulated states in the United States, and I love that. But the thing is, a lot of times when you have migrant people come into your area from other states, they want to bring their ideas. And one of the things that a couple moved over here about 10 years ago, and they're from California also, and I really think the world of them, get along with them well. I consider them neighbors, even though they're not a next door neighbor. If you went as a crow flies, they would probably be the next one over, but they're over a mile away. But I've gotten to know them, and they're good people and stuff. But one thing I had got from them is they were always saying, well, we did it this way in California. And the thing is, they were so regulated out there, they didn't know how to act when they came here, and there were less regulations. And some of them want to bring on all that to us here, and we're not interested in it. We like it the way it is, the least amount of regulations, but it's coming. It's coming no matter what we try to do. There's things have really changed around here in the past 10 years. There is a lot of things that have begun to change, and I can see we're going the way. But anyway, back to the washers. Whirlpool had told me that on their clothes washers, if they don't meet their standards in California, if one of their washers got sold in California that didn't meet the energy standards, they could be in big lawsuits. So they just said the whole United States we're going to. the cheapest thing we have here is water. And we have an abundant supply of water. In fact, this year we have had bukus of water. And I know there are those that say, oh, we have less and less water. But then they'll turn around and say the oceans is rising. Well, how can the oceans be rising if there's not more water? Well, if an iceberg, I guess they're melting and it's causing it to rise. None of this stuff sometimes makes sense to me, because they'll argue one thing, then they turn around and argue the other. Now, I know that in California has had some water shortages because they've been in droughts. And, we could be in a drought here and we could be in trouble. And we don't just waste water and let it go. But I do want my clothes clean, and I want my toilet flushed when it comes time. But the thought today is, where do you go? The United States of America, where do you go when there's nowhere else to go? The United States of America is the greatest nation, I believe, still on planet Earth as far as freedoms go. Now, do we have our problems? Yes, I believe we have some problems, but as far as democracy and the way we operate, we're still the best. And I'll argue this thing with you. If you don't believe we're the best, I know Trump had a thing, to make America great again. America is still great, and it could be better, though. And I understand the point he's driving at. We need to go back to the way we used to be. We were a moral country. We were a God-fearing nation. And things was better, I think, a few years ago than they are now. And a lot of it's just because the government has gotten in the way. But people, the reason I say we're still the greatest, and some of you are overseas, and I don't mean to offend you at all, and I know we have some that watch and comment. This is one reason I think that here is because we have so many people trying to get here. And we're having a problem on our border, our southern border, that they're actually having to build a wall to keep people out. Whether you like the wall or don't like it, and nonetheless, it's just the fact that we are a great nation and people want to come here. I know a local couple here that were from Mexico. They came here illegally. They worked low-paying jobs. They managed to get their citizenship here for the United States. They worked very, very hard. The man and woman now, they own 2 restaurants. Their kids are workers. They're workers. They're doing very, very well. They're the kind of people that the migrants were that came here years ago. Like my grandmother was one of my grandmothers was a migrant here. Most of my family on both sides, my ancestors were migrants to the United States here. So the thing is, they came here for a better life, and they were willing to work hard. I met a lady from Korea who owns a whole bunch of rental properties now. And when I first met this lady, and I done some work for her, and she just owned one rental house. And she worked for Walmart, and got on with them and started at the bottom, and now she's worked her way up pretty high with Walmart and makes real good money at the corporate level. But she also would take and do everything she could to pay off this first rental. When she got it paid off, she bought another one, and then she had income from two. She explained to me how she done it, and she kept building and building until now she has a vast array of rental properties, and it has done this in about I would say a 15-year, 20-year span, something like that. The lady has really done well for herself, but she come from a foreign country, and she from Korea, South Korea, and she said that her grandmother told her that if she would come to America and if she would work, she could be successful, and she's done just that. But this is the thing with our country, the way we're headed. I think we're headed the wrong way, and just for instance, if you've watched these hearings on our president, from what I've seen, and I've listened to some of them when I'm going down the road, I've listened to them live or they're doing it, there's not been anything that I can say is impeachable. Could Trump have used some wisdom? Yes, probably could have done things better. I don't think at the time when he was talking to the Ukraine area that Biden was even running for president. But this is the thing, if Biden was to become president, all this baggage of his son and stuff, the Republicans are going to have trials and do everything just like they're doing to Trump. It's going to be paybacks, and that's just how they work in Washington, D.C. And I think they're opening up a can of worms. And I think unless the president was just to do something, just horribly bad, and I don't think he has done anything horribly bad. Sometimes could he use a little better judgment? Yes, but he's not into the political world like they are. He's not an attorney like most of them up there are attorneys, and they can tell you all these different terms, and they know all the legals, ins and outs. But I know ignorance of the law is no excuse, but the President of the United States needs to have, has to be something extreme for him. Back when they impeached Clinton, I don't really think that Clinton, and I never did like the Clintons, but I didn't really feel like he'd probably ever done anything as far as what they accused him of. Now, there's some things they may have done, but to impeach him. But nonetheless, when you go to impeach the president, this is a big thing. And this could end up destroying the United States of America if he was to get impeached. And I'm talking about actually kicked out of office. I don't see it happening right now. I think that the House of Representatives will impeach him, and I do not think the Senate at all will impeach President Trump. But this is the thing, folks. We're heading down a slippery slope. And it's not just that. It weakens us in our political world, in the eyes of the world. Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, or Iran it is, but all of the countries actually in the world, we are, it hurts us, and it's hurting us bad. But what are we going to do? Where will we go? There's nowhere else for us to go. We're here. We're going to have to make, I say, this is worth fighting for. I don't mean like physical fighting, but getting out and voicing our opinions and doing it. The political realm, are you going to change Washington? Probably not, but it certainly does not hurt. A lot of times they'll have hearings around here for different things. Like if they're going to do a certain thing, they'll have a public hearing. I'm going to tell you, if you get a chance to go voice your opinion, go voice it. Write letters to your congressmen and senators. Let them know how you feel. A lot of times the people that are working hard and you're busy, you don't really have time for all these things. We used to have a nuclear plant down here, and people come and protested that nuclear plant. It was a good employer for our area. It was originally started out being a Kerr-McGee plant. You might have heard the Silkwood story and stuff. Well, that plant there later had an explosion and killed a man, and it was a bad thing here. And they eventually just closed the plant. Now they're dismantling the entire plant. It's been a long process. They've tore down everything. They're having to bury, dispose the stuff, and there's been a lot of this is Cherokee Nation territory, so they've been involved and they want it cleaned up proper to the best that it can be done. But nonetheless, there was these people come and protested, and the news said that the local people, this was on ABC News way back then. This is what aggravates me, is the news lies, and it's turned me off. But the ABC, CBS, the ones that we used to get is back. I don't think Fox was even invented then. I don't think CNN, as far as I know. We didn't get cable, so we just got the local arrows. But it was on the news, and they had down there filming, and they said people are protesting and camping out here that we didn't want that nuclear plant. And I don't know that anybody wants a nuclear plant in their backyard, but it provided a lot of good paying jobs for folks, and a lot of those people now are old enough that it's not a big issue to them. They want to have some retired early and stuff. But I drove down there, and I was about 18, 19, 20-year-old, somewhere in there, and I drove down there just to see the locals. You know, I'm like, who in our community is down there protesting? It wasn't. It was car tags from California. There was car tags from Colorado. Those were two states that I remember the car tags being from. I think there's one from New Mexico. But anyway, it was like the news is lying. It is not the locals down here complaining. It's people from out of town. And the locals here, you know, I do know we talked about, the locals did from time to time. I remember sitting down at our local restaurant down here at Jolly Rogers, we called it. We had a table called the Liars Table where people, the men, would congregate. And I remember some talking about being concerned about this nuclear plant. But nonetheless, finally, the nuclear plant had to close up, but there's a lot of folks that aren't working or busy or getting paid by others to come and protest. We need, not that I want to protest, but we need to voice our opinions. I don't have time to go down here and carry a sign and picket, but I can write my congressmen and senators. But another thing we can do is pray. And I have thought also of this. The Bible says, don't be conformed to this world, but to be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I've thought about that a lot. We need to have our mind upon the Lord. We need to have ourselves spiritually made up, because my next home is heaven. I had told at our last home that we had here, and it was over in Arkansas, and I had told my wife that we would never move. I never planned to move again. Well, guess what? We did move again over here where I was raised here in Oklahoma. I'm glad to be back here, but the circumstances weren't the best. Our house burnt. Our house was, we had a house fire and total loss pretty much on our home, and we had to decide what to do, and we ended up moving back here, and the best thing we've done. It was a very good thing and a good choice, and God's just blessed us, and we're so thankful to be back here. But nonetheless, a tragedy caused me to move, and I've thought, what would I do again if there was another tragedy? We had all the waters coming down, and I thought, what would we do if it flooded so bad down here that we had to move? A lot of people have moved out over here in the bottom country where it flooded so bad because they don't want to build back again. But I was like, where do you go? In a few years, if our country continues to head on the path it is, what are you going to do? You know, I say prepare for the worst and pray for the best. And I'm praying that somehow things will turn around. It doesn't look promising, and I don't mean to be a doom and gloomist here, but the way things are going now, and I talk to young people, and my son's one the other day was talking to me about his concerns about, he's just 21-year-old, but he's concerned about the way our country is headed. He's concerned about the gun rights and things like that, and he's, you know, it's a shame. You know, he's like, what are we going to do when the government takes over totally? And that seems to be the way we're headed, and sadly, that's just kind of the way it is. But what's bad is because we've been a great democracy for all these years, a freedom to go vote. That's one thing we have, is the freedom to go vote. In the hearings the other day, I was listening on the radio, and they asked these scholars who they voted for. Did they vote for Trump? And they said they weren't going to answer that question. And I thought, and even though I thought, I don't understand why they had them on there. They should have had eyewitnesses of what was supposed to be going on. But nonetheless, I thought it was kind of neat, this thing. They refused to answer. you have the right to vote, and nobody else needs to know how you voted. That's no one else's business how you voted. And I'm glad that some made note of that. And the Republican guy who asked him that, he shouldn't ask them that question, because we have the right to vote. You have the right to vote who you want to, and your vote should remain personal, private, that nobody else knows. But anyway, thought today is, where do you go when there's nowhere else to go? My next home is up in heaven. I've made things right with God. That's where I plan to head, and I hope to stay here. Well, while I'm on planet Earth, I hope to stay here where I am right now. When I do things here, we put a new roof on the house, a metal roof, and I told my son, he did most of the work, I said, I want this to outlast me. I said, if I live to be 80 or more, I don't want to have to redo this thing. I told him, I said, in another 30 years, I won't be able to climb up on this roof probably. And I don't want to have to climb up on it. Even if I'm able, I don't want to have to climb up here and redo the roof. I want things fixed to last. Now, it may not look the prettiest, but I want it to outlast me. And so, but nonetheless, the only thing I know we can do is pray, and we can prepare. And if things continue as they are, those that have prepared, that have made provisions and done the best you can, nobody can be prepared for everything, but preparing for what we can. I think in this time that we're living, this is one of the most wisest thing we can do. And if we don't know what to prepare for, ask God to help. And that's one thing I have heard several people tell me, that they felt the Lord telling them. They felt a drawing to get prepared. They think that something bad is ahead. Exactly what? I mean, if you watch YouTube videos, man, there's all these different things going on, and man, it just boggles the mind. But be prepared. Have some food put back. Have whatever you need put back, and learn how to do things the old-fashioned way, and learn how to can and preserve food, because it appears that we're headed in some bad times ahead. I hate to leave you with that kind of negativity today, but that's just the thought on my heart today. And hey, I appreciate you watching. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and may God richly bless you, and we're gone.